Hello everybody. Today we want to get started with Python and see how we can work with Python. So in order to do that, at the very beginning, you need to install Python. How can we install Python? There are some different ways to do that, but the best way that I can recommend you doing that is by going to this address. So open a web browser and type this https colon slash slash www.anaconda.com slash products slash individuals. And when you hit the enter button, you're going to see something like this. So Anaconda individual version, it's absolutely free. And then if you scroll all the way down, you will see that it has like different versions for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. So it depends on your computer. Mine is 60 byte graphic installer, and I click on that, and it's like half of the gig, 477 megabyte, something like that. I already have uh, Python on my laptop, so I'm gonna skip this. But after finish, when your download is finished, then you can just go ahead and everything should be straightforward, and you should be able to install Anaconda easily. With Anaconda comes Spider. That's what we are gonna use, Spider. Uh, so this is what we have. Scroll down to Anaconda installers and choose the appropriate version. I'm using Python 3.8 and works perfectly on my Windows 64. And with that being said, we are going to start chapter 1. Chapter 1 is Introduction to Python. In this chapter, we are going to cover the very basics. We're going to talk about Python lists, Python dictionaries, Python booleans, tuples, sets, conditional statements, for and while loops, functions, lambdas, map, filter, methods, and at the end, there are going to be some exercises. Okay, let's get started with chapter 1. But before that, let me show you the general setting that we have. This is the place you can type your codes, and you can work with that. You can just hide the line counting. You can uh, make the lines bigger, easier. You can change the view and everything. You can play with this stuff. You can make it full screen or not. uh, I don't like it full screen. I want to see, like, when I implement each code, I want to see the results. But definitely go ahead and play with this menu a little bit. But let's see how we can write codes. So I'm going to start with print the very just I want to the phrase hello world to be printed. So I type this print, then I open a parenthesis in and then quotation mark, inside quotation mark hello world, and then just I close the parenthesis. In order to just run this cell, you can either select it and come here and click on this run selection or current line, or you can just press F9. That's what I usually do. Just I press F9, and you see the result is here. So in one, input number 1, print hello world. The result or output is that as you can see, the the phrase hello world is printed. So you can print whatever you want, whatever phrase you want. Yes, print Dr. Surush Azizi, and then and as you type, Spider usually has this, like shows you print, then inside parentheses, it gives you some like tips that what you can expect. Yeah. So if we implement this, we are going to see print Dr. Surush Azizi. And obviously, when we are typing codes, we are going to have so many mistakes. And for example, if I forget to put like Surush in quotation mark, and I write like this, first of all, I'm going to get this uh, code analysis error. As you can see, it's in red and with a stop sign, something like that. And it said undefined name Surush. And if you run this, as you can see, you get some error. Name Surush is not defined. Python is telling you something is wrong. Name Surush is not defined. So how could you resolve this issue? Just put Surush in quotation mark and then you'll be fine. Yeah. So next one is like very simple and some calculation. For example, 5 plus 6, you hit F9, you can see it's 11. In is 5 plus 6, out is 11. 7 times 2, 14. If you want to say like 2 to power 3, we do that with this, 2 to power 3. As you can see, the distance between lines is optional. You can have a distance between lines or you can just ignore them. I just do that because I want my codes to be very visible and readable, but you can delete this space or not, whatever you want. You can always use parentheses inside in Python codes, and like calculators and every other languages, whatever comes inside a parenthesis has a priority. So this is going to be 1 plus 2, which is 3, times 5 plus 3, which is 8. So 3 times 8 is 24, and that's going to be the result. However, if you do this, 1 plus 2 times 5 plus 3, that's going to be 1 plus 2 times 5 is 10, so it's going to be 11 so far, plus 3 is going to be 14. As you know, multiplication has priority to addition. You can use hashtag for writing a comment. You see this, and you can see in like a Spider, this when you use a hashtag and when you have a comment, that's not going to be in black anymore. It's like whitened, and like, so you know like easily that's a comment. So that's one way to have comments. Sometimes you have a block of comments, like you have 2 lines of comments, 3 lines of comments, something like that. For that, you can use 3 double quotation marks. If you have 3 double quotation marks, for you can use that. Um, that. So we call it duck test, 3 double quotation marks for block comments. And when you run these comments, nothing is gonna happen. Yes, I mean, here you have to select all of it, but yeah. So here, next thing we want to talk about is reminder. Like what's reminder of 6 when you divide it by 2 is 0. 7 by 2 reminder is 1. Then in Python you can easily define variables, like you can define x as 3, and then you can have space here as if you want, y equals 4, And when you say x plus y, that's going to give you 7. Yes. Next thing we have is, for example, you can mix and match like variable names and numbers. For example, x1 equals 2, x2 equals 50, then x1 plus x2, or let's say x1 times x2 is going to be 100. Yes, you run that, you get 100. You can either use single quote or double quote to create strings. So in Python, of course we use strings as well. You can do that using single quotes like this, or double quotes like this. Use double quotes to contain single quote like this. And as you can see inside our double quote, which is here, I have single quote. I can, and then I is in single quotes. You can, a variable can take a value, like here x was 3, or it can have the string. So for example, here x is hello, and if you ask x, it's going to be hello. And if you print it, it's going to be hello. So what's the difference between this, just having x, and print x? When you say x, the word out is going to be also here. But if you say print x, there won't be the word out. Okay, it's going to be just result is going to be printed. Basic data types. These are basic data types that we have: floats, integers or int, string, or boolean. There are some other types as well. We are going to talk about them later on, but you can use the keyword type to check the type of one variable. So x, which is hello, is string, y is integer, 5.4, that's a float. How about 5.0? Is it string? It's just 5, yes? But since we have 0.0, that's going to be also float. For example, the word true is Boolean. The word false is also Boolean. How about just T? That doesn't work. Like in R, if you're familiar with R, T or true, they it's they are both means true. But here we gotta start with we gotta just write true. Or if we go with like lowercase true as well, that's not gonna work because the name true is not defined. R is gonna treat this as string, which is unknown because you don't have it in quotation. And if you have put it in quotation, of course type of this is going to be string. But if you wanted the true as boolean true, then you gotta start with capital letter T, and all other words must be lowercase. Yes, all other letters must be lowercase. Okay, that's true is equivalent to class in R. That was section 1 of chapter 1, which we talked about uh, just the elementary stuff. Then we are going to start defining lists. In Python, we work with lists all the time. List is a sequence of elements enclosed in brackets and separated by commas. So we use lists all the time. Like as you can see, many of our stuff is going to be lists. So I'm going to define a list called my underscore list. which is just a list of numbers from 1 to 4. So for that, I'm going to have a bracket, then 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma, and then these spaces again are optional. So you can have that, and then you can ask, what is type of my list? Type of my list is list. Or you can ask, or to show you my list. If you do that, it's going to show you this. Or you can ask to print my list. Yeah. If you do this, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be printed. And so even if you get the input my list as this, still when you want to see it or print it, there's going to be space here between comma and each next element. But okay, so that's new types. And then in Python, numbering starts from 0. So element number 1 is indexed as 0. So index for 2 is here 1. Index for 3 is 2. Index for 4 is 3. So if you want to extract the first element, you have to say my list, then inside brackets 0. And then this one gives you 2. Let's have another example. It might be less confusing. So in list, you can mix and match different types of variables. For example, let's say 5, letter A, letter H, and exclamation point, the word apple with capital letter A, and let's say false. So this is called list 1. We are going to work with this a little bit more. And as you can see, when I print this, the word false is in blue because it's Boolean. So here you can see like the numbers are in almost pink, not exactly, like reddish pink, something like that. And then strings are in green. And so what's going to be output of this? What's element with index 1? Element with index 0 is going to be 5. Element with index 1 is going to be A. So as you can see, string A with quotation, of course. The element index 3 is going to be our fourth element. So I use the word index to exactly say like indexing is from 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, index 5. But when I say element 1, it means our very first element, which has index 0. So if I say list 1 in brackets 3, that means element 3, which is our fourth element, which is apple. And one last example, maybe list 1 in brackets 5, false. Yeah. What's going to happen if I ask Python, for example, elements index 9? It says list index out of range. It means that our list only has up to index 5. So index 9 is, there's no index 9. So it said list index out of range. Lists are mutable. What does it mean? So lists are mutable. What does it mean? It means that you can add or drop or change their elements. For example, remember this list one? This is list one, and if you wanna see it, you can just type list one, and then let's say to this list we want to add a letter D. We do that, list one is going to be something like this. Or let's say we want to remove H exclamation point elements. So we have all we have to say with append we added something, with remove we can remove something, some element from a list. And then let's see the list one more time. Now here the first element or element index 0, both of them are the same thing, is number 5. Now let's say I want to change that number, let's say 50. What can I do? All I have to do is to say list 1, then in brackets like 0, which is elements index 0, equals 50. And when I do that, if I see, take a look at list one more time, it's going to be 50 and A and stuff. So what's the output for list 1? 3. So this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 76. List 1, 0. How about that? It's going to be 50. First three elements. If I want to print first three elements of list 0, I can write this. List 1 brackets 0 colon 3, and it's going to be 50 a apple. And also I can write it just list 1. I can just write colon 3. It means from the beginning everything up to 3. And so here we want to see like how exactly we can print some elements. If I want to print the last item, last element, I can say list 1 in brackets -1. Last two items I can say from -2 to the end. So this means to the end, yes. All except the first two, so items 2, 3, 4. This one. So here I do not have 50 and A. So as you can see that the open bracket is inclusive, but close bracket is exclusive. So if I do this list 1 from 1 to 3, what do you think is going to be printed? It's going to have items index 1 inclusive to index 3 exclusive. So let me print list 1 one more time. This was list 1. So if I print this, it's going to be A, apple, and then index 3 is going to be 76, but it's exclusive, so it's going to be only A and apple. Yes, two items. So open bracket is inclusive, close bracket is exclusive. We can use indexing, same indexing on strings as well. So for example, assume string S equals the word Surush, capital letter S, O-R-O-O-S-H. We can do the same. S0 is going to be capital letter S. S6 is going to be index 6. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's going to be H. and then from 1 and afterward is gonna be urush. From 1 to 4 it's gonna be inclusive 1, 2, 3, and 4 exclusive. So only 3 items. How about this one? Elements 0, 1, 2. So 3 is exclusive. And this one, it takes the element 0 of string S, which was capital letter S, and then it adds string and to it. So it's going to be sand. You can create a list by starting from scratch. So let's say I start a list which is just empty brackets, and if I print mine, it's going to be just empty brackets. You can append letter A, number 5. You print mine now, it's going to be A and 5. So you can start from scratch and then append like different things. You can add to lists. You can add lists. So let's see, what was my list? So you can also like select a part of a line and then press F9, and Python prints just that part for you. So this was my list. The second one is list 1. What's going to happen if I add these two? It's going to be my list and list 1. You cannot add a list and a number. If you do this, you get an error. Why is that so? Because the type of this one, these are two different types. This is an integer. This is a list. You cannot add them. How could you do this? Make the second one a list. If you do that, you'll be fine. Yes. Nested lists. So sometimes you have nested lists. For example, a nested list is a list that includes another list. A list that includes another list. So you can call it, for example, name the list like nest. So this one has 3 elements. Elements index 0 is 1. Element index 1 is 2. Element index 3 is a list. That list is number 3 and number 50. So you print this, it's going to be 2. You print this, is going to be a list. And then from this list, you can extract, for example, different elements. For example, element index 0, which is 3, can be extracted like this. So here we are asking for element index 2, and then inside that element index 0. Another example, this one, we have 3 nested things. List 1, list nest includes elements 1, 2, 7, and the 4th element or element number index 3 is another list, which is 350 and so on. And then when you can check this. For example, nest 3 is going to be in element index 3, which is this list, and out of this list you can extract, for example, element index 2. This one is a list with only one element. So if you want to extract just the string store, you gotta say nest 32 and then 0. And you can also print it. If you print it, then quotation mark is going to be also gone. Okay, that was it about lists. Let's move on to the next important topic, which is dictionaries. Dictionary, you can create a dictionary in Python by specifying curly brackets. So rather than brackets, here we have curly brackets. And then you will have a key, a colon, and the value that corresponds with that key. Then comma, and then the same key, colon, value. So here, for example, there is a dictionary. I call it D. If I print it, so this dictionary has three elements. Elements number 1, elements number 2, and then elements number 3. I can see all the keys with D dot keys, and I can see all the values. If I want to print, for example, a specific value with keyword key, which is letter C, I can do this. Another example, maybe easier one. So this is another example. This is a dictionary, again 3 elements. You print it, then if you want 4.5 to be printed, you just say D, and then inside brackets you mention the key, yeah, and the value would be printed. And then all the keys and all the values. The second way to make dictionary is to use word dict and then pass in a list of keys paired with values. Yeah, that's the second way to create a dictionary. It gives you the same dictionary. Everything would be the same. The third way is to start from scratch. D3 equals empty curly brackets, and then add members or elements like this. D3 of, then inside brackets put the key equals to and then the value. Same, all the values, and then you print D3 is going to be the same as before. All of them are the same. So these are 3 different ways to create a dictionary. You don't have to call them D, like here we call them D2, here we call the dictionary D3. You can call them whatever. Another dictionary, and then D of key 1, that's going to be value, D keys, D values. If you want, you can have all the keys as a list. For that, you should say list, and then inside parentheses, D dot keys. Then you're going to have a list of all the keys. And if you want a list of all the values, you say list D dot values. Combining dictionaries and lists. So in a dictionary, a value can be a list. For example, here look at dictionary D. You see value for key 1 is a list of 3 numbers, 5, 6, 7. Value for key 2 is list of 3 letters, A and B and U. The key 1 is going to give you a list. And then out of this list, you can extract elements. So element index 2 is going to be 5, 6, 7. What is the output for D key to 1? So if you do this, D key 2 is going to be this dictionary, and then you extract the element index 1, that's going to be here, B. So letter B in quotation marks. Two nested dictionaries. Also, we can have, for example, dictionaries and then this, and for example, we can have another one, let's say K3, and then here where you can have a list like 46 and 57. So here I have D key 1, it's a dictionary itself. Then out of this dictionary, you can get different stuff. If you want the list that's here we have as a dictionary, if you want that, you can have this D key 1 and then inside brackets enter key, and then here the result is a list 8 and 9. Out of this list again you can extract like element index 0, which is going to be 8. Or as before, you can for example have D key 3 K3, that's going to be a list 46 57, and then you can extract for example element index 1, which is 57. As you know, all numerical objects must be enclosed in a single or double bracket marks. Question, what's the output for this one? List 2, something like this. If you do this, you're going to get an error. What's the error? Name H is not defined. Okay, that was it for dictionaries. Let's move on to the next topic, which we are going to talk about booleans, tuples, and sets. About booleans, booleans are like true false expressions. For example, 2. So this one that we have equal sign, it means is 2 equal to 2. So here the answer is going to be true. So before jumping into the rest of this, let's see what was x. What do we have as variable x? Variable x is defined as hello somewhere. So if I say x equals, for example, here soar, then I am here giving x a new value. But if I say x equal, for example, soar, then the answer is going to be true. Or if I say x equal hello, now that x is not hello, it's going to be false. So when you have only one equality, you're defining or uh, assigning a new value to your variable. But when you have two equal signs, then you are checking if x equals that value. 5 less than 8, true. 45 less than 0, false. 3 in this list, 5, 3, and A, yes. So the word in means something. That's a keyword in Python. Word soar in this string, Dr. Surush Azizi is so handsome. That's true. Word sorry in Dr. Azizi is so handsome. It's false. Okay, moving on from booleans to tuples. Tuples are sequence of elements in parentheses separated by commas. So very similar to let's say lists, you can have another tuple, for example, t equals a, and then letter, let's say h, and then number -4. Yeah, and then t, for example, 0 or t1. It's gonna be letter h. So you might ask, so what's the difference between a tuple and a list? So first of all, here rather than brackets, we have parentheses. The more important one is that tuples are immutable. For example, t0 equals new gives error. Before, for a list, it assigned a new value to the element index 0 of our list, but here it just gives you an error if you run this. You see, it's a tuple object does not support item assignment. So you cannot assign a new item to an element of a tuple. The third thing we want to talk about in this section is a set is a set. A set is a collection of unique elements. It looks same of curly brackets as dictionary, except it does not have the columns. It's just elements. So no columns, it's just elements. We do not use them that often, but like in mathematics, like if you have repetition in a set, it doesn't count. So you print, so set S here, we have 5, 6, 7, 7, 7, and then 8. But here, if you print it, it's gonna be only 5, 6, 7, 8 because it does not care about repetition. You can add numbers and then it's gonna be like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Okay, that's a set. Next section is about conditional statements and for and while loops. Let's talk about them. So a conditional statement can start from with a keyword if, like this one. If 1 is greater than 5, print Surush, else print no. So if we run this code with F9, we see the result is no, obviously. So there is a if and then conditional statement. After conditional statement, we have colon. Since 1 is not greater than 5, Python is going to skip this line. It's going to go to else, and after keyword else, there is a keyword colon, and then print. And I mean, here you can have whatever statement you want. Here I have this statement print no. Another one is when you have elif, conditional statements. When so here we have if 1 is greater than 5, so one condition, colon print Surush. So again, it's not correct. It goes to the next line. Python is going to jump this line because if condition is not correct. Then elif, which is stands for else if 3 equals 3, which is a true condition. And then this guy not bad will be printed, and then only the first correct elif would be the statement below first correct elif would be executed. So if we run this, as you can see, not bad is printed. You see next line, I have 4 equals 4, which is true, but still you can do better is not printed because only the first elif is printed. So that's a conditional statement. Next topic that we have is for and while loops. So just look at this list. It's a sequence, we call it SEQ. It's a list of numbers from 1 to 6. And then for item in sequence, print, so I'm going to run this, print item. And 1 to 6 is printed. Yeah. These items can be like different things. It doesn't have to be 1 to 6, or it can be, for example, 1, 24, 39, -4, 65, and then last number is, for example, just this. Okay, and we can do this. So if I want to print this, F9 here, now I defined it sequence, and then this guy. So as you can see, the items are printed. So it doesn't have to be just numbers in a sequence. Next one that we have is dot formats and f string. Let's see what are they. Let's say we have a number num is 8, and a name which is Surush. I have this statement. My number is, like inside a quotation mark, my number is curly brackets, and my name is curly bracket, dot format, dot num name. Now if I want to print this, so I'm going to just run them line by line. When I do the third line, when I do this, and when I have dot format, then inside parentheses num and name, then when we execute this, rather than num, the number, which is 8, would be printed, would be appeared, and for name, the name would be appeared. So this is good because if you, for example, if you want to change the number and name, you don't have to change the whole expression or the whole code here. You can just change the number here, okay? And then run it again. And then when you do this, so it's going to be here, my number is 9. And you can also print it. If you print it, it's going to be the same thing, but without quotation mark, yeah? Equivalently, you can do this, like inside quotation mark, you can have like word 1 and then word 2, and then dot format 1 equals num, 2 equals name. Something like that is also possible. A better way to do this is using f-string. F-string is usually way more straightforward. So you have f and then quotation mark, and then inside curly bracket you just write num and name. So just assume, I'm gonna just change this stuff. My number is, for example, 90, and my name is, let me go with my official name, which is Sayed Surush. So I run this, and this. So my number is 90, and then my name is this, and then you can have print. Inside print, you can have the f string. And then, as you can see, my number is 90 and my name is Sayed Surush. That would be printed. So this f is called f string. Okay, having that in mind, we are gonna jump to next topic, which is while. So let's say the variable I has the value 1. We say while I equals less than 5, print I is curly brackets format.I. So for this, again, remember you have to select everything. Oh, one thing that I forgot to mention is that in Python, in the these spaces mean something. When you have spaces, so when you have something here, you put colon, then automatically, and you press enter, automatically your next line is going to be indented. Yes. And then, so how many spaces? One, two, three, four. Automatically, next line is going to be 4 spaces ahead. And that means something. So if you add another space, then you're going to get an error. Unindent does not match. So here, in the all the indents mean something. So we run this, and here these 4 sentences would be printed. While so the way it works is that first I is 1, I is less than 5, 1 is less than 5, so this one would be executed, while I is so here is just 1, and then I would be turned to I plus 1. So I plus 1 is going to be 2. Then we save that in I. So I would be 2 at the end of this loop. And then again, Python checks if the condition is met or not, because 2 is still less than 5. Again, this is going to be printed, and the statement would be executed. And then I would be 3, and then 4. After 4, when it turns to 5, then the statement is false, and then we are at the end of the loop. Equivalently, we can have that with F statement. So I run this, and the same result. Next topic I want to talk about is about range. Range is something that you can create, for example, lists easily. So let's see, range 2 and 20 and 3. What does that give me? If I do that, or for example, if I want that as a list, it's going to be 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. So the format is here: start, stop, step. So Python starts from this number, and it increases by this step. So that's a very quick way to create lists or anything like that. You can assign that list, for example, to and then if you skip the step 1, by default step is 1. So X is, for example, list of range between 0 to 5. Execute that, take a look at X, and then it's going to be from 0 to 5, from 0 to 4. And so this guy is exclusive, yes. At the end, start is inclusive, stop is exclusive. That's the important thing to know. Start inclusive, stop exclusive. For example, if we had here 2, as you can see that the last one is 18, not 20, because stop is exclusive. Okay, let's get back to this. We have X. Take a look at X, and I define out as a empty list, and then I append stuff to X. So for num in X, so remember X is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Out.append num to power 3. and then I want to print out. So I just do this, and then I print out 0182764. Or equivalently use list comprehensions. That's also possible, but list comprehension. Okay, that's it. Next topic that we have is about functions, lambda, maps, filter, method. Very important stuff are here, especially functions and maps are so important. Okay, function is a block of code with which only runs when it's called. You can pass data known as parameters into a function. A function can return data as a result. Creating a function in Python, a function is defined using the def keyword. So you have def and then a name of a function, okay? Def, name of a function. Then you can have some arguments, not necessarily, but usually we have. And then colon, and then something like return something or print something. So this is a very simple function that it has two arguments. Each of these two are called arguments. It has two arguments, it accepts two arguments, and then, for example, my func of 2 and 5 is going to result in 7. If you say, for example, my func and then just give it like, let's say 9, what's going to happen? You're going to get an error. My func missing one required potential argument n2. So here you're going to get an error because it needs two arguments like n1, n2. Second example, def, my func2 and then name, colon. Also inside like functions, it's very common to have some block comments. You can use, again, 3 quotation marks for block comments, and then print hello plus name. Okay, you can use plus sign to concatenate two strings. Yes, so I run this and then I call that my function, and the argument is Surush. So hello Surush would be printed. So that's these are like very easy functions, and the very typical example is that write a function that accepts one argument, an integer or a positive integer, and tells you if it is a natural number or not. Okay. Lambda. Lambda is similar to a function but used for simple functions. So if you have very simple functions, excuse me, you can use lambda. Lambda is similar to function but used for simple function lambda arguments. Here is the format. Lambda and then arguments colon expression. The expression is executed and the result is returned. So for example, x equals lambda a and b colon a plus b. So here you get rid of the word def, and then you get rid of the name of a function. Rather than them, you have just keyword lambda and then arguments, but they're not inside parentheses. And then inside that, what you want to do with that, like you want a plus b. So what is returned is in front of colon. So if we run this, x of 2 and 5 is going to be 7. Now, that was about lambda. Next topic is maps. Map is a function that returns a map function returns a map object, which is an iterator of the result after applying the given function to each item of a given iterable list, tuple or something. So, and the syntax is map, and then inside parentheses is function, and then iterable object that we have. It has two parameters. Number one is a function. It's a function to which map passes on each element of a given iterable, and then iterable which is to be mapped. Right now, I know I can guess it's like a little bit not tangible for you. We are gonna have a couple of examples, but also in next chapters when we talk about like data sets and everything, series and data frames, it makes way more sense. For data frames, we always use uh, this map. So we need to know about functions really good, and then maps. And because in Python we always use with data frames, we use map all the time. So definitely make sure you know how to work with functions and maps. So one example here, define define def myfunc. It accepts one argument n and then return length of n. This len is something that when you have a string, you can pass a string to this function. It's a defined function for Python, and then you can pass a string and it tells you how many characters it has. Like hf blank d, it gets value 4. Yeah, or just hfd gets value 3. Now here we define that function, the simplest function possible. Yes, and then I have, so if I pass my func apple, that's going to give me 5. Now let's say I have x, I have my func, and then I have a tuple. This tuple has 3 objects, and it has like apple, banana, cherry. And if I run this, nothing so far happens. If I print it, it gives you something like very peculiar, something very weird. For that, because there's a problem, we do not use print, we use list. So with map, you gotta use list. If you get list, and then it's gonna give you 5, 6, 6. So you have 5 characters here for apple, 6 for banana, and then 6 for cherry. Yeah. And then you can try that with different things. You can have like Surush, you can have, I don't know, Jamie, you can have Jack, and then we can do that 4, 5, 7. Okay, that's was one example. Another example, for example, define times 3 is a function, and then we define the function times 3. It accepts one argument, which we call it var, and it returns variable times 3. So we run this, and then sequence is defined for, as for example, 1, 20, -3 and 7. You run that, and then you list map of times 3 and sequence. Yes. And then it gives you 3 times those stuff. So 3, 16, -9, 21. Or equivalently, we could have used, rather than defining a function, we could have used a lambda. It's the same. So here we have lambda num times 3. So that's list. Okay. So let's have a harder example. Define a function, call it is underscore prime, which takes one argument and returns true if the number is prime. Use map to check which items in this list are prime. And the list is 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11, 12, 13. So the way we define this, and here we are using a lot of knowledge that we already have, but DEF is underscore prime, argument is x colon. If x equals 1, then return false. If x, and then you don't need these parentheses. If x equals 2, return true. Else, here I'm defining a number which is I. For I in list range 2 to x, and again remember that the range, for example, this list. So just I want to remind you that this list, for example, from 2 to, I don't know, let's say 5, it's 2, 3, 4. It's so 2 inclusive, the beginning, the end exclusive. That's usually the case in Python. Beginning is inclusive, the end is exclusive. So it's going to be range of numbers from 2 to x minus 1. If remainder of x by I is 0, which means x is divisible by I, then return false because the number is not prime. Else return true. So this is the function. I run this, and then I check these all the numbers here. 1 is false, 2 is prime, 3 prime, 4 false, 8 false, 11 true, 12 false, 13 true. But if you want to do them at the same time, all you have to do is to say, define this list like sequence 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11, 12, 13, and then say list map is prime sequence. And you get the result false, true, true, false, false, true, false, true. So it shows that 1 is false, 2 true, 3 true, 4 false, 8 false, 11 true, 12 false, 13 true. Okay, next topic is filter. The filter function returns an iterator where the items are filtered through a function to test if the item is accepted or not. Syntax is, so it's somehow similar to map, but it just filters those like numbers. Like let's use that for a couple of let's see a couple of examples here. Example number 1, we have the list which is ages 5, 12, 17, 18, 24, 32. We define my function. If x is less than 18, return false, else return true. Okay, we have this, we run this, and of course we have to run this as well, and then list filter my func ages. and here return this. So in the last example that we had, this one, we could just simply change this a little bit and then say list filter is prime sequence, and then it just brings 2, 3, 11, 13, all the prime numbers. So this is, for example, example 2, and this is example 3. So we define a sequence of number, the same things, and then we want to filter all the even numbers. Yes. So we use lambda for that. Num, if the remainder of num by 2 is 0, then we want that. So num, it's gonna return true if this is a true condition. And then the sequence, we pass the sequence and we get 12, 18, 24, 32. Okay, let's move on to last topic that we have. So methods. Let's say we have a string. Well, hello, my name is Surush, handsome. S lower, it takes the string and converts everything to lowercase. S upper, everything would be uppercase. S split, that's very important. It gives you a list. The return is converts a sentence or a string to a list. And then the elements in these three lists are separate, are like words. So every time that we have a space, then we are going to have a new item. So item 1 in our list is hello dots, item 2 my, item 3 name, 4 is 5 Surush, 5 at handsome. Now sometimes we care about, for example, maybe we want to split not with regard to space, but we want to split with regard to something else. Let's say at sign. If we do that, then we are going to get this. Our list includes two items. Item number 1 or index 0 is hello dot my name is Surush, and item number 2 is just handsome. And if I want, like for example, the word handsome, I just do this. So what's the output for this, for example? sazizi at pnw.edu. Dot split in parentheses with regard to at sign and then 0. So the results so up to here is going to be a list, and then that list is going to have like two items. Item number 1 sazizi on item number 2 at pnw.edu. Yeah. So if you do this, only this part, you're gonna get a list of two items. If you want, if you say in brackets 0, you get item number 1. It's as easy. It's one thing. Another thing, if you want to, so here we have a list of numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then you want to say item equals lst dot pop 1. You take a look at item, it shows you this guy. Item, the index 1 in this list. And then if you take a look at list, then that the item index 1 is now removed. So it defines by item and then removes that item from the list. So you could also do the same thing like in two lines rather than using lst.pop. Just use first define like item as lst1, and then remove after that item 1 from the list. So lst equals lst dot remove 1. So if we do that, we get the same results. First, we are going to check if lst is fine. Then do this. No. Okay, remove. So the way that which is equivalent to this dot pop, is that I'm gonna define list again. LST is a list of odd numbers between 1 to 9, and then I can define item as LST index 1, and then LST dot remove 3, and then here item, and then LST. So here the only difference is that it's like a little bit lengthier if you wanted to do that. Okay, last two things. We have keyword in. We saw this before. X in this list 1, 2, 3, and X true. And another thing is tuple unpacking. We don't use this that much, but 1 and 2. So we have a list of 3 tuples. Yes. X is a list of 3 tuples, 1 and 2, A and B, G, H, J, and 7. We say for A and B in X, print A. Or so this A and B and this A and B are unrelated, yes. Let's not have this A and B so it doesn't make any confusion. For example, here X says this, and then I say for A and B in X, print A. So it's going to print 1 and GHJ. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for listening.